Good afternoon. My name is Lateesha, and I'm an astrologer, numerologist, tarot reader, and I wanted to come on and talk about the YouTube star James Charles. And I was so fascinated by his rise to success and then the sudden tower moment. So, for all of you who are astrology lovers, or those who are trying to learn more about astrology and numerology, I'm just going to take a look at his personality, and then I'm going to look at some of the transits that are happening in the sky that caused the significant change in his career, significant and sudden change in his career. So, in numerology, we look at the name and the date of birth to find some of the characteristics of the personalities. So with James Charles, he was born James Charles Dickinson. So we use the name in numerology to be able to determine how a person, the energy that is associated with how a person speaks and how they express themselves. So each letter in numerology resonates to a number between 1 and 9. So those numbers are calculated and then they are reduced down to a single digit. So for James, his expression number is the number 5. So the expression number 5 gives you a person that loves to talk, a brilliant mind, quick thinker. There is an energy that always needs to be moving and traveling and independent and learning new things. There is a stubbornness that is also associated with the number 5 as well. So for James, you see, when you hear him talk, he talks very quickly. And he's very witty, he's very sharp. And so you see that in the way that he expresses himself. And then the personality number in numerology, which is here, is calculated by the date on which he was born. So he was born on the 23rd of May. So we add the 2 plus 3 in the actual date on which he was born. And with that, we have the number 5. So the 2 in this 23, it gives him an energy where he definitely likes to mediate between friends. He likes to have the conversation, and there is a part of him that likes to keep the balance. We can also see that over here in the astrology, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then in the number 3 is very receptive. The number 2 likes to keep balance between others. And then the number 3 is receptive and likes to host parties and likes to socialize and likes to talk as well. So the 2 plus 3, again, we have a personality number 5. So this is someone who does not like to be stagnant, does not like to be necessarily tied down. They want to travel. They need to be moving around. They cannot stand to be bored. You have a brilliant mind. You have someone who is very independent, very rebellious. The number 5 has a rebellious energy to it. Again, is ruled by the number Mercury. That's the ancient ruler, but it also has an energy associated with it of the planet Uranus, where Uranus brings in sudden, quick change, just brilliance of mind, forward thinking. So you have that in the number 5. The number 5 is also averse to commitment. So this is someone who does not want to necessarily be tied down to any one thing. And then we have the life path number. So the life path number shows for any soul, any individual, where it is that you are supposed to be going in this life. What did you come to do? So he has what is called the master number 11, and this is calculated by adding each number in the date of birth. So we would add, for May, we would add 5 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9. And then we would get the double digit, and it is going to equal out to the number 11. And then so the number 11 is a master number. The master numbers are 11, 22, 33, and they are not reduced. But within the number 11, when you add 1 plus 1, there is an energy of the number 2. So for James Charles, he has the life path number 11. So within this master number, we see the two number ones that are standing here side by side. So there is this great leadership ability within the number ones, as well as the number 5. There is an independent leadership ability, a sales ability within the number 5. But this number 11 here has the energy of the number 2 at the very heart of it, which is about bringing people together. It is being a mediator. It is someone who wants harmony and balance among people. The number 11 is a portal. So we hear this in spirituality all the time. So the number 11, a person with an 11 life path, you grow into the life path number. It's not something that you automatically have when you are younger. You grow into this particular energy. So James Charles has been said he's just, 19 right now. And there are other people saying that, we shouldn't talk about the fact that he's 19. It doesn't matter. But I mean, it does matter in the sense that he has not matured into this energy, which is one who would be careful about making disturbances, amongst friends, and one who would be very cautious about others and what he is saying and what he is doing. But he is not there yet. He hasn't grown into this energy just yet. So with the number 11, it is a portal for the spiritual realm. So it invites in great creativity. It invites in an ability to know things intuitively, to be able to just have an understanding of the way that things are going. The number 11 is also tied to Aquarius, as Aquarius is the 11th sign of the zodiac. It is the number of friendship. It is the number of humanitarian efforts. And it is one that is very giving. And again, it has a lot of foresight as to what is upcoming. So we see this with the number 11 for James Charles. So when we move from the numerology, and then we go over here to his birth chart. So we didn't have an exact time for his birth, but I put in 5 a.m. He was born in the Bronx in New York. And I put in 5 a.m., which gives him an ascendant in the sign of Taurus. Okay, so, and we can see this. So in the ascendant, right here, ascendant, and here's Taurus, we can see physical characteristics that are based on the ascendant sign. So for a Taurus ascendant person, you will see a forehead often that is squared off like this. Okay, and then you also see the big bovine cow eyes, So James Charles, he has these characteristics of a Taurus ascendant. Okay, so I feel safe to say that he fits that. But others may say, well, if he is a Taurus ascendant, then he would have a larger body frame. But that's not necessarily true, because he has Saturn sitting in the first house. And wherever Saturn is, it causes shrinkage. It causes things to be minimized. So when you have Saturn on the ascendant, oftentimes you will have a smaller framed person, unless something else is happening there, unless you have maybe Jupiter sitting in the first house. That may make a person larger, because Jupiter expands everything, and then Saturn causes things to be contracted or constricted. So with James Charles, you see that he is shorter and he's very small in his frame. And so Saturn can absolutely cause that. So again, going back to his speech. So James Charles he is known for how quick he is with his words. He thinks very quickly, speaks very quickly. He's able to do great on camera. So he has his Mercury, which rules communication. He has this at 28 degrees of Taurus in the first house. So when you have Mercury in the first house, a person is known for their communication, known for their ability to speak, and it is at 28 degrees. So the number 28, of course, it equals number 1. We take 2 plus 8, and that equals 1. So you have a person who is leading out in their speech, And then we have the sun in the sign of Gemini. So Gemini is the planet that rules. Gemini is a sign that has to do with speech and communication. It is the first air sign within the zodiac, and it is the third sign of the zodiac. And so he has it at 1 degree. Again, there is that leadership that is there. And so he leads out in his speech. He uses that Gemini energy to speak, and Gemini is ruled by the sign of Mercury. So he has the ruler of the second house in the first house. So here he is using his ability to speak in such a powerful way. And then the second house has to do with income. It has to do with the ways you make money, self-esteem, self-worth. So oftentimes you will see someone with the sun in the second house, they struggle with self-esteem. But for James Charles, he has the ruler of this in the first house. So that gives him a boost to focus on the self, because he has the ruler of the second house, which is Mercury, sitting in the first house. So this gives him a boost in his self-esteem, and his self-esteem is built on his brilliance of mind and his way that he is able to communicate. And Mercury in the sign of Taurus, it will typically be slower in communication, but it is so close to the sun in the sign of Gemini. And because it is 28 degrees, once a planet goes from 27 degrees onward, 27, 28, 29 degrees, it takes on the energy of the next sign. So this Mercury, although it is sitting in the sign of Taurus, is going to have the energy of Gemini, which is that quickness in communication. It's going to have really a dualistic nature. And so when we think about this whole situation with Tati, it is very common to hear that Geminis have this dual nature. They have, like they say, there are the twins. So you have one twin who is really nice, and then you have one twin that may show up and is not so nice. So where you hear people say Geminis are two-faced. They have two faces. And that is oftentimes very true, because there is this dualistic energy within the Gemini. So this may explain why it was that he showed this type of activity, this type of behavior with Tati, the two faces. Okay. And then, so when we go over here to the third house, which is the third house rules communication. It rules short distance travel. It rules writing and any kind of speaking and siblings and so forth. So you have him with Venus, which is the planet of love. It is the planet of money. It is the planet of self-esteem and self-worth. And you see it in the sign of Cancer. So when you have Venus in the sign of Cancer, this is a very tender-hearted person. Even though you can see him doing all of that talking, he's very sensitive, because Cancer is a very sensitive water sign. It's very nurturing, and they wound very easily. They pretend to have an outer shell that's very hard, but on the inside, they are very tender and very sensitive. So what does he love? He loves his family. He loves his siblings. He loves his brother. And we can see that. That's very open and very public. And he loves to talk and communicate. This Venus in the third house. He loves to communicate. And people love him. And when people are talking to him, like Tati said, they just automatically feel close to him. So it was easy for her to love on him and nurture him and be a son to him because of this Venus that he has here as it relates to women. Women will really just embrace him, and it's very easy because your heart will open up because you feel that this person, this boy, needs nurturing. And even we see that he is very close with the CEO of YouTube as a woman, and she has just embraced him as her son. And someone with Venus in the sign of Cancer, especially in the third house of communication, you would, because he is able to talk to you in such a way where he is making you feel his need for mothering, if you will, or he just comes off as a son when he's talking to you with this type of energy. And then in the fourth house, we see that he has the north node of the moon. So the north node represents where it is that you should be going, where the soul has come, what it has come to do. Is in the sign of Leo in the fourth house. So the north node in the sign of Leo shows that this is a soul who came here to take the stage, to stand out, to shine bright, to be seen, to be on the stage, to be heard, to use all of their creative gifts, to put their heart into all that they are doing, and for everyone to see it. And so he has definitely been on that path, and very early in life, because typically people don't start moving towards the north node of the moon until they have gone through their Saturn return at least, typically, but he has definitely moved towards that. And when you move towards your north node, then you find fulfillment and you find success coming for you. And it is not easy to move from the south node, where his south node is past life or his past activities, were in Aquarius, where he was just concerned about the others and other people and humanitarian efforts, to move into this place where he is ready to stand on the stage and be seen by everyone. And that is what his soul has indeed come to do. All right, then we move to the fifth house, and it is here. The fifth house has to do with creativity. And it has to do with owning your own business. It has to do with having children and so forth. And so for him, he has the moon in the sign of Virgo. So Virgo is this very critical, very perfectionistic earth sign. And so when we hear James Charles talking about working hard and everything must be perfect, the moon is showing up here. So for his business, fifth house, and how he operates his business and what he has created, it has got to be perfect or he does not feel peace. So the moon shows where you feel most familiar, where you feel comfortable, where you feel at home. And so he is at home with things being perfect. So when we look at Beyonce, she has the sun in the sign of Virgo, and you hear her talking about she could rehearse and practice for 15 hours a day without taking a break, without eating, without going to the bathroom. This is the same type of energy that James Charles has. So when you see his business and you see the makeup and the artistry, the creativity, which is tied to this fifth house, you see that perfectionistic nature coming out through the moon. So he does not feel comfortable at all if things are not perfect, if that makeup is not perfect, if his business is not functioning well. And not only that, Mercury also rules the sign of Virgo. So he is very genius. His mind is extremely brilliant because Mercury rules his moon, the sign of his moon. It rules his fifth house, and it also rules the second house, the money-making house. So his creativity is ruled by the sign of Mercury, brilliance, and then his the way he makes money here in the income section and self-esteem is ruled by Mercury. So it is through his communication his talking and his creativity, of his gifts, that he is able to bring all of this forward, all of this mercurial, brilliant mind and artistry. He is highly gifted at that, and he's able to bring it forward. And then we see this line here. There is what is called a trine. So he has a beautiful connection between Saturn, which is the great manifester, coming over here to the moon. So in this fifth house, so the things that he is able to create and able to think up and able to dream about, I'm sure he just has dreams that come to him of things to do with this moon sitting here in the fifth house of creativity. And Saturn, this beautiful connection, and Saturn here is at 10 degrees and then the moon is at 15 degrees. He is able to bring all of that into manifestation. He's been gifted with this Saturn, with that beautiful aspect. Then we come over here to his daily activities, which is found in the sixth house. So with the sixth house, we have Mars sitting here. And Mars is retrograde. We see that R at 25 degrees in the sign of Libra. So the sixth house rules your daily routines, your daily activities, and so forth. The people that are around you. Libra is ruled by the sign of Venus. And then we have Venus sitting over here in the third house. So his daily activities is all about Venusian things, which is art and beauty and fashion and makeup. And all of these things are tied to what he loves to do, which is communicate and talk. He's very passionate and nurturing as it relates to Venusian things, which is fashion and beauty and art. And then because he has Mars sitting here in this sign, he is forward moving about the Venusian things. So this gives him a fire to be able to bring all of this forward. Now he has an opposition coming over here in Aries at 23 degrees to Jupiter, to Mars. So what you will find is that early on, there were people, others, who their beliefs were contending with what he wanted to do. Mars is how you take action. It's how you move forward. It's the things that you do, that you put into action. So, and Jupiter is what it is that is believed. It's beliefs, what's taught to you, what's preached in society around you. So for him, the beliefs, traditional beliefs, probably that, a man, traditional society would say a man or boy should not be wearing makeup. You would see that opposition here with Mars. So somebody, what their beliefs were, stood against what it was that he wanted to do or felt called to do. But because of these fives that he has here, this independence that he has, nobody could tell him what he should or should not do. He has that rebellious nature. And so he was able to go ahead and initiate and self-actualize based on what he felt and feels is right for his life. Okay. And then in the seventh house, we have the sign of Scorpio. So the seventh house has to do with partnerships that you enter into. It has to do with others. It has to do with intimate relationships that you enter into, and also business relationships. Scorpio rules money as well as Taurus does. Taurus rules the income that you earn, and Scorpio rules other people's resources. So with this seventh house in Scorpio, it is other people's resources. Other people help him in this area of his life. Other people help him with their resources. He is strengthened by other people's resources. But not only that, he enters into these dramatic, contentious relationships oftentimes. And so you have, because Scorpio is all about pain, it's all about deep and dark hidden things. And so he will find that he is in these relationships that bring up drama, that stir up drama. And we see that with him over and over again. He has these relationships that ultimately have a nature to them that turn out to be painful, but they are transformative because Scorpio rules transformation. And so it is ruled by Mars. So we have the ruler of the sixth house is daily activity. We have the ruler of the seventh house sitting in the sixth house. So there is this passion, there is a depth that is tied, that is linked to the people that he works with in his daily activity. The people he works with are tied because Mars, the ruler of this seventh house, is sitting in the sixth house of daily activity. So that shows us that the people that he works with on a daily basis are people who have drama associated with them, but also they are tied to the beauty industry. Now, Tati has a Scorpio moon. So that would indicate that her moon, which is this part of her that feels safe and familiar, is connected to this part of his life. And we heard her say that, where she said, I just loved him and just took him, like a son and so forth. And he was family to me. So that part of her was able to connect, and she was able to feel like they were family because he has that energy that correlates with her moon in his seventh house of partnerships. All right. Then when we move into the eighth house here, the eighth house has to do with secret things and hidden things, occult things, private things. It has to do with sex. It has to do with everything that would be hidden, the body parts that are hidden, anything like that. And then Pluto is sitting here, and Pluto is the natural ruler of the eighth house. And so he has Sagittarius here. So Sagittarius, when we look to Sagittarius, it is a fire sign. It is mutable. It is very voracious. It is signified by the centaur. So we have half man and we have half horse. And so Sagittarian energy is fired up just naturally. For instance, if you have Mars in Sagittarius, it is fired up about traveling, meeting new people, sex. There is an animalistic nature about Sagittarius, as well as a philosophical side of Sagittarius. So when you see this here in the eighth house of sex, the Sagittarius, you see a person who is fired up about having a lot of different sexual partners. And that's what we have seen with him. And then Pluto, again, is this Lord of transformation. So as it relates to sex, here is transformation that is happening in this area of his life. So his views and his thoughts on sex, he experiences transformation about this area of his life constantly. Okay. And then we have Chiron, which is the wounded healer, sitting here in this eighth house. So with Chiron here in the eighth house, wounds from the past, wounds from childhood as it relates to sex and sexuality and what it should look like and what it should be and how it should feel. So in this lifetime, there is healing that has to happen about that. And we see this all playing out on a very public stage for him. Okay, then when we move from the eighth house, we move over to the ninth house. So the ninth house is about higher learning and travel, long distance travel, and it is about the father. It is about maybe even stepfather type energy. It is about legal issues. Capricorn. So ninth house is about justice. So what we have had happening in the sky, so he does not have any planets that are sitting here, but the ruler, before I go into what's happening in the sky, the ruler of this ninth house is sitting over here in the first house, which is Saturn. So for him, any kind of higher learning, he experiences this firsthand in a harsh way in his life because Saturn is sitting here in the first house. So for him, all higher learning comes at a challenge. Even the harsh life lessons that he's learning right now, they come at a really great cost. Okay, but when he does learn them, he learns them, and he will be able to move forward from it all. Then when we move over to the 10th house, this is the area of the career. All right, so the MC, which is right here, and the 10th house. So we have this in the sign of Aquarius. And what is really significant, we have Neptune sitting here at 4 degrees retrograde, 4 degrees Neptune, and then we have Uranus sitting here at 16 degrees. So the sign of Aquarius on the 10th house. The 10th house represents your reputation in the world, how you are seen by people, and your reputation, your career that you have. So he has Neptune sitting here. So you have a career where you are putting on a mask. So oftentimes you will see actors who they have Neptune oftentimes on the 10th house cusp or the first house cusp. You will often see that. So he has Neptune here. So with Neptune in this placement, you see someone who is very gifted at putting on a facade, if you will. So putting on makeup, pretending to be able to become what you want to see. In the sign of Aquarius, Aquarius people will be very rebellious oftentimes towards the traditions of society. So that's what you see in his dress, the way that he dresses with the makeup, the whole characteristics of what he's doing is breaking the mold and doing something very different, very avant-garde, different than what society is expecting. So Aquarius is his very rebellious sign. And then so Uranus here, which rules the sign of Aquarius, gives even more of an oomph to the rebellious nature that he has towards society. And we see that it's on a very public stage for everyone to see. Is very much a part of his career. The 11th house has to do with the groups and organizations that he is a part of. It has to do with even the awards and accolades and things that he does receive. And so we have this here in the sign of Pisces, but we have the ruler, which the new ruler, modern ruler, is here in the 10th house. So everything that is tied to his accolades, rewards, is tied to his career. And we've seen that as well. And Pisces is tied to creativity, individuality, artistic ability. So we see he can sing, he can draw, he uses color, and all of that is on the front stage for everyone to see. And he receives his rewards because of his career and his public view and his public stance in society, what he's done with YouTube. This also, the 11th house, has to do with the internet. So he has taken the ruler of the internet, and all of that is sitting over here on the 10th house, on the MC, for everyone to see. Okay, and that is how he is able to have his career. Then in the 12th house, which is the subconscious mind, it is normally the very Neptunian house, Pisces house. We have Aries sitting here, and we have Jupiter here. So this Jupiter expands wherever it is. So you have an expansion of the subconscious mind, the ability to tap into the spiritual realm and come up with these really creative ideas. And then in the sign of Aries, there is a boldness that is there about it, able to move out boldly on an individual level and do the things that you have dreamt about doing. Okay, so what happened that caused him to be exposed in the way that he was exposed? So on May 10th, Tati came forward and put out a video that negatively impacted his life. So what was happening in the sky? So it was very public. So we looked to the 10th house to see what was happening that would cause him to be publicly exposed the way he was and negatively. So what is happening in the sky right now is that Uranus, this planet right here, is moving through the sign of Taurus. Okay, so it is sitting in Taurus. On the day that this happened, it was sitting at 3 degrees of Taurus, and sitting at 3 degrees, it makes a hard aspect right here to his Neptune, which is on the 4th house, which is in the 10th house at 4 degrees. So when Uranus, which is the planet of lightning, it is the planet that will expose, and it will bring sudden and catastrophic changes, just depending on what it is connecting to. So for James Charles, it was a catastrophic, very tower moment. If you know tarot, it was a tower moment for him because Uranus removed the mask of Neptune sitting here in his 10th house for all the world to see. There was lightning that struck from Uranus, because it was making what is called a square in astrology. When it hit this Neptune, the mask of Neptune is all about having a mask. It is all about, Neptune has two sides. So there is the beautiful artistic side, the side that can tap into creativity and bring things down from the spirit realm that are beautiful. But it also has a side that is very chameleonic, that is associated with lying, that is associated with pretending, that is associated with, again, wearing a mask. So for James Charles, when Uranus came through, the mask came off, and there was an exposure for all the world to see, because he has a very public career and everybody was able to see it. So all of how this played together tied into that exposure for him. So that is what I wanted to share with you all today. And so you can check and see where Uranus is in your chart. Right now it is still at 3 degrees of Taurus, and see how it will be impacting you. If you would like a reading from me, you can contact me at Lateesha.com, and all the information will be listed below. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.